We are live on Proline TV as we talk a little NASCAR, and I'm no longer alone. CJ Redoon is back. Yeah. Actually, I think I have like special effects now. Don't I have clapping effects? Here we go.
There you go.
How was your trip?
It was fantastic. Thank you. Long journey, but well worth the trip.
Say that again?
What was that?
Say that again. How was the trip?
The trip was fantastic. It was a long journey, but well worth it, and great experience. Glad I was able to go. Thank you for holding down the fort the past 2 weeks.
Yeah, it was lonely, but it went fast. So that was the most important thing, especially with all the football going on.
Yeah.
I just had wall-to-wall interviews, and my days went by like 2 seconds every day. So I guess it was it went fast. All right. So what you missed, of course, was the first two races of the playoffs. And look who is actually in a good position is your championship sleeper.
Absolutely.
None other than Chase Briscoe. So Chase Briscoe continues. Let me pop up. I haven't even seen the championship updated odds since the playoffs began. So let's see. Oh, that's the wrong one. Where are we? Here we go. Let's get here. Okay. So let's see. There's Kyle Larson. There's Denny Hamlin. There's Ryan Blaney. Byron Bell. Oh, Briscoe's now all the way down to 8-1.
Still a good value compared to William Byron and Christopher Bell there. Certainly, I think Briscoe's been on an upward swing, better second half of the year as he's gotten more acclimated with Joe Gibbs Racing and obviously proving it here early in the playoffs.
Yeah, I think the only driver right now that would be, a long shot that I would consider. Well, obviously Logano still has kind of long shot odds at 18-1. That's a given, but it would probably still be Bowman, because if Bowman can find a way to get through, then he's going to be dangerous because he's going to need a really big effort, which means he would get his momentum back. So that's what you would be gambling on. But other than that, I don't think anybody suspects Bubba Wallace, not the year Ross Chastain has had. So I think we're at the point now where there's not a whole lot of big value options, but we gave you a bunch of them this season, as well as just before the playoffs began with Chase Briscoe. So, but Kyle Larson, the favorite, what has he done since the Indianapolis 500 weekend to warrant being the favorite?
You're asking the wrong person, because since the playoffs have begun, he hasn't finished inside the top 10. He was barely finishing inside the top 10 prior to the playoffs. So I am very surprised to see that he's still the favorite, especially after Hamlin won last week and his teammate won the week before. So Larson, just based on the fact that he can lose two races pretty horrifically and then come back and win the third, maybe that's why he's getting the benefit of the doubt. But aside from that, I really can't see it.
Okay, so before we get into the race this weekend on Saturday night, Bristol night action, just recapping what happened just a couple of days ago. Yeah, what did you think about the race gateway? It was another one of the things that I did notice as far as the trends, and they held up again, is it's a track where if you qualify well and you practice well, you're going to have a good chance of winning the race. And Denny Hamlin did just that. Even though his actual practice speed was 17th place, I had to explain to everybody on the starting lineup report that that's just it's not a factual number, because of, I don't know what they've been doing. I think, I'm just guessing, but it's almost like they're letting the non-playoff drivers and the weaker drivers go first. That's what's happened the first two races of the playoffs, at least. And then the better drivers and the playoff drivers go second. And so the first 2 weeks of the playoffs, we're seeing these big discrepancies in practice times. Very weird.
Yeah, we talked about that a little bit when I got back. Part of it could be difference in temperature. You would think naturally, though, more laps on the track, more rubber in would make for faster laps. But I think uh, with the sun on the track, a half hour to an hour of it baking in the sun, I think makes it a little bit more slippery. But then, second part of that is the better guys go second. They've got much more insight into what they want out of their setups and probably aren't looking as deeply as some of the other teams are in terms of, or some of those that are behind them, in terms of big swings that they need to take and test things out. So I think they're a little bit more settled in what their setups need to be and what they're looking for in a car. So they don't need to run as many laps and probably aren't getting the headline lap times as a result of that as well.
Yeah, well, I'll definitely be looking deep into that again on Friday night because that's when they'll be practicing and qualifying once again, 24 hours or so before the Saturday night race coming up this week. But yeah, anyway, what did you think about the race? Denny Hamlin gets the win. Not a big surprise. Kyle Larson decides to dump Ryan Blaney. I got no idea what that's about, but it's typical Kyle Larson. So anyway, what did you think about the race?
It's still Gateway for me. I think this one was better than past Gateways that I've seen. There was more multi-lane racing. I think there was a little bit more movement, but at the end of the day, it's still very much a track position track. So if you start up front, you're likely going to finish up front as long as you don't make any mistakes. I didn't see a ton of mistakes aside, Kyle Larson's obviously was the biggest one. We did have a number of accidents, which jumbled things up or gave teams a little bit of an opportunity to jumble things up. But at the end of the day, like you said, Toyota was extremely strong. Chase Briscoe and Denny Hamlin, Joe Gibbs Racing, very strong. It's interesting to see Christopher Bell struggling. He's still in the top 10, but he's nonetheless struggling when you compare the fact that two of his teammates have already won. So that's interesting to see. But at the end of the day, no huge surprises coming out of Gateway for me, though the racing was marginally better because they were able to get more side by side throughout the field.
Okay, so now we get to break down the third and final race of the round of 16. Before we do that, let's take a look at the playoff standings because now we're going to be eliminating 4 drivers. So here they are. So where do you think we would draw the line here as far as the drivers that are in the play in right now looking like that they are going to, even if they say have a really bad day, get through to the round of 12? Where would we put that line?
Probably around Joey Logano, Ross Chastain. You want to be double digits above the cut line for sure. Those guys are looking at top half of field finish in order to get through. So I think they're relatively safe as long as no massive disaster happens to them, say on the first lap, and then you have something weird from somebody in the bottom 4 there. But I think if you're Ross Chastain, if you're more so Austin Cindric, I think that's where you got to be really careful and really making sure that you not only get some stage points, but work your way all the way to the finish to be able to grab those points at the end of the race as well.
Okay, so you think Chase is pretty safe then for the most part?
Chase is relatively safe. I mean, not to say that mathematically it's not possible, but he's Austin Dillon's 243 points. So he's up almost 30 points on the cut line. So he'd have to finish bottom 10 of the pack and be out really early, missing stage points through that, as well as having somebody like an Austin Dillon, SVG, or Bowman coming up and probably getting stage points as well as the top 5, if not a win, for him to get knocked out. I mean,
yeah. And as far as the drivers on the outside looking in, these are the 4: Dillon, SVG, Bowman, and Berry. So Bowman, does he have to win the race?
Virtually. I mean, mathematically speaking, no, I don't think so. I think with stage points and a lot of help, he could do it. He's definitely going to need help from somebody else. He can't just do it on his own. The only way he can do it on his own is winning. But I do think Bowman and definitely Berry are in virtual. Berry definitely. Bowman is in virtually a must-win scenario, I would say.
Okay. All right. So there you go. We are ready to eliminate some drivers. And, Shane Van Gisbergen, we talked about what could happen if he can get through to this round and the road course coming up in the next round. And the fact that he's only 15 points out of it, as bad as he's had his start to these two races, hey, he's had every opportunity given to him to go to the next round. So if he doesn't get there, I mean, I don't want to hear anything because of the fact that, I mean, basically all he had to do is finish like in the top 20 in the first two races, and he'd be in great position right now.
Yeah, except for the fact that his results have been 32nd and 25th. And obviously he had contact at Gateway, ended up hitting the wall. I wasn't around for Darlington, so I don't know specifically what happened to him there. Probably something similar. But yeah, I mean, he's close, so he can still do it if he has a great day at Bristol. But given the way that he's been racing on the ovals, yes, he's been improving. But I'm not sure that he's going to make such a big step forward this week that he's going to be able to pull himself to safety. You know, it'd be awesome if he did, because I think he'd be a virtual lock to be able to go through all the way beyond the round of 12, given that the is coming up next in the next round. But again, the battle to make it there, he's got to get through that first. So it's a big night for him Saturday night at Bristol.
All right. Let's go ahead and take a look at the odds for this week's race. And who do you think is going to be the favorite?
I would put all my money on Kyle Larson being the favorite.
Yeah, you would probably be right about that, considering he's won the last two races. And not only has he won the last two races, he has dominated the last two races. So, yeah, I don't think that's going to be a big surprise. And now it's just a matter of what the number is, and it's lower than 3-1. So this is as low as a number as we've seen from any driver outside of Shane at a road course. And we'll get into all that. Let's just keep in mind that the thing at Bristol, and I think, you know, looking at the trends even before NextGen to the last 5 NextGen races, they didn't have 2 a year since NextGen because of the dirt nonsense. So if you look at it, though, not a lot of differences. Pre-NextGen, NextGen, 10 of the last 12 winners have started in the top 10, 8 of those in the top 2 rows, and 3 pole sitters. But there have been 2 winners a little outside the top 10, 17th and 20th during that span. And the last 4 years, we've seen Toyota and Chevy win 2 races apiece. So Ford has definitely been a little bit behind. If you want to talk about, and who would you, which track do you think is the most similar? Because we've got the 2 flat short tracks, Martinsville and Richmond. And then we do have the concrete track, Dover. So which do you think is the most similar?
That's a really tough question. I want to say Dover just because of the banking, but even at Dover, you don't get the difference in line that you can get at Bristol. So to me, it probably more of a short track, but I think from a configuration standpoint, Dover is by far the closest, but from a racing standpoint, I think you got to look at a place like maybe even Richmond, because one of the short tracks where you get multiple lines of racing, because here you can move up to the top of the track. You can be at the bottom. You can't run the top at Dover. You've got to be at the bottom, but you can come up maybe half a lane at that track. So I would go more toward the short tracks of Martinsville, Richmond, put Bristol in that same category, despite the fact that from a surface and banking standpoint, Dover is geometrically closer.
Okay. Let's get back to the odds. And I think the second choice is pretty obvious too, don't you?
Yeah, I would go with Denny Hamlin as the second choice. Yeah.
So you got 2 drivers under 5-1 at this race. And these are not strange. This is predicted. But we'll get into it. All right. Now, this is a little bit more difficult now. So who do you think is just past these guys? Who's third?
Chase Briscoe.
Ooh, you think the respect is going to be there for Chase Briscoe?
Should be. Finished 4th earlier this year. Blaney would have been my second guess.
Yeah, this is, again, showing the respect for Blaney that they've been showing all year, because he's never had a great history at this track, yet this is the type of track that I've said repeatedly that eventually he's going to win, and he should start being a lot more consistently better here. And I think he's been slowly getting to that point. So I could see it. I still think 6-1 is not a great value for him with his overall history at this track. But yeah, it is what it is. There's Christopher Bell.
That is interesting to me.
He's next. So let's, I tell you what, let's start first of all with the top two. So you got Larson and Hamlin. And again, as I said, he dominated Larson. He dominated the race earlier this year, and he dominated the race last year. He's the defending champ, leading a combined 873 laps. Okay. He's got 6 straight top fives, a runner-up, and 3 wins here. And he's led at least 19 laps during that stretch. Hamlin, on the other hand, does have 3 career wins. And if you look at it, he was second this year to Larson. He was 4th in this race last year to Larson. Hasn't led a lap in either of those 2 races. But don't forget, Gateway, second, last 2 years, never led a lap, won the race. He's also got wins, though, in 2023 and 2024, just before the 2 Larson wins. So it's been Larson, Hamlin, Hamlin. And Hamlin led over 300 combined laps during that stretch. Not the domination Larson did, but I think part of it, to me, is getting to the point now with the way that Larson has dominated, and even Hamlin with all those laps led. And we've talked about this, is that this car, this next-gen car, is just not very good at all at Bristol. It's something that they've got to figure out, because they just can't keep going on. I mean, I don't hear anybody talking about it as much as I think they should. There is finally some people discussing this issue, and I think it needs to be more louder. I mean, this is one of the premier tracks in the series, and it's just become one of the boringest races of the year, and that's got to change.
No disagreement for me at all. I was looking back at this race earlier this year just to remind myself of what actually happened, and I was reminded of how boring it was. And I 411 laps led out of 500 from Kyle Larson, but I also looked at the number of cautions, and typically you get a lot of cautions at a place like Bristol. You get a lot of close racing, you get some big wrecks, but the number of cautions that you have that are unplanned, so outside the stage breaks, gives those teams that are behind the opportunity to catch up. They can make changes, they can go off strategy. You just have more opportunities to make decisions. And similarly, alternatively, if you're one of the front running guys and you have more opportunities to make decisions, you have more chances of making a wrong decision. So you get a little bit more movement throughout the pack. But if you look at this race earlier this year, I think there was only 1 caution that came outside of the 2 scheduled cautions, which is why you had Kyle Larson. There was really only a 50-lap stretch within the middle of the race that he wasn't able to lead. Aside from that, he was out front and dominant, and there was nothing else that was going to change the race. So I think, the car is difficult. It hasn't worked at Bristol. I think we can end up seeing a better race if we have some unexpected cautions. But again, you're kind of banking on external factors to make the racing better there. So I agree with you. Something's got to be figured out, whether I think it's got to be the tire, just to make it fall off a little bit more, kind of like we saw when Bristol first came back after the dirt, when everybody had to be really careful to manage their tires well in order to make the racing at this track a little bit better with the cars we have it today.
Okay. Now, as far as this year, Larson, 5th at Martinsville, 4th at Dover, 6th at Richmond. So he's been perfectly fine, but he hasn't won any of those races. Hamlin wins Martinsville and wins Dover. Throw in the fact that Hamlin is much better at this stage of the season than Larson is, and you're getting almost double. I mean, the line has moved down a little bit to Hamlin. I believe he was more like 5-1, 450, I should say. So it is getting lower, but you're still getting at least 1.5 points almost extra from Hamlin. I know Hamlin's coming off a win. He doesn't need it, but Larson doesn't need it either. So I don't know. I tell you the truth, I'd probably go with Hamlin.
I think from a money aspect, I would definitely go with Hamlin. Just the odds are nearly 2 times better than Larson. Hamlin's racing much better here in the current stretch of the season. He was good enough to finish second there. I think the big laps in the last 2 Bristol races, whereas Larson has been out front quite a bit. And when you go back to thinking about the way Larson has been pretty much for the past several years, he has dry spells, he has really crappy races and really bonehead moves, and then comes back and wins a race. And then he'll go back to having bonehead moves. Those wins seem to come when he most needs them. I'm not saying he needs a win this week. He's certainly safe from a point standpoint and advancing standpoint, but I think I would give the edge to Larson just because of the amount of time that he's spent out front at this track over the couple of races that we've had versus Hamlin playing more catch up. I reserve the right to change that opinion, obviously, after I see qualifying though. But even still, with Larson from a qualifying perspective, you look at Denny Hamlin, he hasn't started outside the top 10 at Bristol since 2018. Whereas even when Kyle Larson back in the fall of 23 started the race 36th, he still finished second. So Larson has just come alive at this track. He, winning back-to-back weeks, he's been in a slump. I think it's time for Larson to win. Obviously, that's not the right call from a money standpoint, though.
Yeah, it is one of those things where you feel like, okay, I guess it would not surprise us if he goes out there and he dominates again. But it is one of those things. It's almost like the proof that we needed from Shane on the road courses. All right, he did it once, we'll do it again. And Larson, yes, he's done it again, but it's still, this is a short track. This is a track that under normal situations, we would see more cautions. And it is a playoff race. It's a win and you're in. So I think we might get a little bit more desperation out there from some drivers, or even from non-playoff drivers looking to win. Who knows? So I think that could come into play. Or who knows? Maybe Ryan Blaney decides to take Kyle Larson out and get his revenge on Saturday night. Larson does not have a top 5 in his last 6 races and has not won since just before, of course, the Coke 600 Indy 500 weekend. So that's and we're going against the trend of him winning 3 consecutive races at the track. That's just, this day and age, that's just not very easy to do. I'm not sure if there's anybody over the last 2 or 3 years that has won 3 straight races at a track.
Yeah, I completely agree with you on that fact. He's won not only 2 of the last 2 Bristol races, but he's won 3 of the last 6. So I think it's probably more likely that Denny Hamlin can win back-to-back races. We saw teammate Christopher Bell do that earlier in the season. I can't remember if Hamlin won back-to-back races this year or not. It wouldn't surprise me if he has, given how many he's got on the season so far. But yeah, Kyle Larson 3 in a row at the same track. I don't think we've seen things like that since like Jimmy Johnson at Dover or Kevin Harvick at Phoenix. It's been a long time since we've seen that kind of domination from a single driver in a single track.
Okay, so now let's break down the next group. We got Bell, there's Byron, and then there's Briscoe. Okay, so Bell and Byron. Byron and Briscoe are 10-1. Bell's at 7-1. And out of this group here, I will say there's an obvious driver here that does not belong. He is obvious, 100% obvious. CJ, are you? If you don't know the answer to this question, then you've left some of that NASCAR swag back in Australia. So, where's the obvious outlier here?
I would say William Byron.
You would be right.
I don't. You put a ton of pressure on me there. I hope
yes.
I did right.
So Byron has never led a lap here. He was 6th earlier this year, which is okay considering he started 26th, but also consider that he does not have a top 10 in the playoffs so far. He has not had a top 10 in his last 4 starts so far. And in the 3 races that we consider the most similar, 22nd Martinsville, 32nd Dover, and 12th Richmond. No way, absolutely no chance with all the other options you have would I even think of taking William Byron this week.
Yeah, I mean, and the fact that he's still like kind of behind the 8 ball, I would say, compared to some of the other competition within the playoffs. Last 3 races at Bristol, 35th, 17th, and 6th. He qualified 26th earlier this year. Was able to come back to 6th, but I mean, didn't, like you said, hasn't led any laps. If you look at the race from earlier this year, even Alex Bowman, who's further behind, I would say, than Byron, actually got out and led almost 40 laps at this track earlier this season. So I would even put Bowman ahead of him. He's probably well, because Byron is going to advance as well, whereas Bowman needs to actually make something happen. So yeah, Byron is the one I would absolutely not recommend anyone choose this week.
Okay. Now, as far as the rest of them, again, I don't like Blaney's odds at 6-1. He does have 3 top 5s, including a 5th this year when he led 48 laps. And he's also on a nice run. He has 7 top 10s in his last 8, including a win. And he's also, if you look at it, in the 3 races, Martinsville, Dover, Richmond, he's actually gotten better at each. 11th Martinsville, 8th Dover, 3rd Richmond. And he has a win here in Xfinity Series. So again, this is a matter of time before he gets it here and can be maybe even dominant here one year. So I and you're getting a decent number. So it's just I was hoping for a little bit better. But you're right with Briscoe. I still think Briscoe continues to be a good value. He was a good value last week and finished second again. And he was about the same odds. It's like they're not moving him up anymore. You thought that they should, and I don't disagree. I think you should put money on Briscoe here at 10-1. I think he's a better play than Blaney because of that. Look at this run: 6 top 5s in his last 9 with 4 runner-ups and a win. Second and first in the playoffs. And then his last 2 races at this track, 4th and 8th. Considering his first 4 race attempts here were not very good at all. He also has a 2nd at Dover and had a really good run in the Xfinity Series at this track with a couple of runner-ups and a win. So, yeah, I mean, Chase Briscoe doesn't seem to be in a, I'll just kind of cruise it and we'll just see what happens. When you're in a run like this, you don't want it to disappear. And I think he's a really good play. So, yeah, out of this group, I would go Briscoe 1, then I would take Blaney 2nd and Bell 3rd.
I am in complete agreement, and I think you could argue a case for Christopher Bell being number 1, given how many laps he's led at this track and how good he's been at it too. But the difference is, for me, what I heard coming out of Gateway. And from Briscoe, it was all about, I want to win every single race. I want to keep that momentum going all the way to Phoenix, and I want to dominate on my path there. Coming out of Gateway, Christopher Bell was frustrated, said, I'm behind my teammates. I don't know if we're going to get it right. They haven't given me anything that I can work with. So I'm feeling a lot worse about Christopher Bell and his potential chances, whereas Chase Briscoe is at the top of his game right now, plus a 4th place at this track earlier this season, as well as a good run of form right now. Briscoe first, Blaney 2nd for me, Bell 3rd.
Yeah, there is a lot to like about Bell, like you said, and you're getting a good price on him at 7-1. So if you feel like he's the man, go ahead and take him. I got no problem with that. But yeah, I do believe in things like, your current status coming into races. How have you done lately? We just talked about that with Larson. It does matter. And right now, Bell and his team, they're not simpatico at this point. So maybe it's a good thing. Maybe that's something that needed to, come out, and maybe Bell was keeping it inside. So maybe with trying to win a championship, he felt this was the perfect time to let it out. So we'll see. But I think it's going to be kind of hard for that all to go away in one race, but you never know. He's definitely more than capable, especially at those odds.
Yeah, I think they're going to be more focused on making sure they make it through the round. And now that everything is out in the open, make the corrections and hopefully be better for the rounds to come.
Okay. Next group. Elliott is still considered one of the top drivers here at 11-1. I'm okay with that. Maybe I would have liked a little bit better odds, but I'm okay with 11-1. He's got a couple of runner-ups here. He's led some laps. He's been okay in the NextGen with a couple of with those 2 runner-ups I mentioned. The only thing is he's only led 5 laps in the NextGen, so that is I'm not really happy about that. But he's been okay at these tracks this year as well. And most importantly, I think what we saw on Sunday might be the change that Chase needs to get this championship run going, because we still felt all season long, he was one of the better bargains. For a driver of his name and championship, and he was getting double the money and all the other drivers, the Larsons of the world. Numbers starting to come down a little bit, but they're still getting a good number from him. And even in a race like this, I mean, he's never won at Bristol, so that's something he'd like to accomplish. And again, what he did last week when he didn't have the history, the qualifying, the practice, nothing looked good coming in to the race. And yet he was able to get that car into third place. And I think that's the momentum. That's the positive momentum that I think you might see this week. So I think Chase is a good play. And as far as the rest of them, the only other one that I'd put in some money here with would actually be Gibbs, because Gibbs would love to get a win before the season ends. He hasn't won yet in the Cup Series, and he's been pretty good here. He was pretty good here in Xfinity as well. He was third earlier this year. He was also fifth at Dover. So in the two concrete similar tracks, third and fifth. And I think that definitely means something. So you are getting a good number at 18-1. So I don't think Gibbs is a bad little sleeper. What about you with these four?
I agree. I think we saw a lot from Elliott in terms of the caliber of the team being worthy of a championship this year. Not that we had any doubts, but I think that really came to the forefront exactly as you described last week. And then Gibbs, obviously very good at Bristol. He's only raced here 5 times in the Cup Series, but yet 2 times he led over 100 laps at this track. So he's definitely got something going for him at Bristol. So I would expect Gibbs to be a top finisher. I could potentially see him winning. It's going to be tough given this being a cutoff race in the playoffs and the other guys may be hungry. Joey Logano would definitely steer clear of him, considering he hasn't qualified better than 20th in the last 2 races here, hasn't finished better than 24th in those 2 races either. So he's kind of been nowhere the past couple of races. And then Chastain, we already talked earlier about the struggles that he's been having this year. This is a good track for him. So probably, top 15, top 12, top 10 kind of day. But that's not what he needs from a championship perspective. So I agree. I think Gibbs or Elliott, I might even go with Gibbs ahead of Elliott, to be honest with you, because Elliott's going to be racing just to have a smooth day, not have any problems and get through. If he can take the win, he'll take it. Gibbs might be a little bit more hungry for the win.
With Logano, just to give you the stats, he's led just 7 laps in his last 9 races at Bristol with an average result of 21.5. And this is for someone that's had a good history there in the earlier Penske days, winning twice in 2014, 2015. Chastain, meanwhile, has never qualified in the top 10. He has an average starting position of 27.3. And yet he's got a 12.2 average in 5 NextGen races with 3 top 10s. So what this tells me is that when we talk on Friday night, if Chastain has a good day, practice, qualifying especially, then you might want to take a look at him. But it's one of those things where you're probably better off just waiting, because with all these good drivers with those short odds, I think it's going to take an awful lot to move Chastain from 22-1, or maybe he'd get to 18-1 or something like that. I think you're better off just waiting to see if he does well on Friday night. I don't think you're going to lose a whole lot as far as the odds are concerned if he does have a good day.
Yep, I would agree with you on that.
Okay, let's move on. All right. Not a sexy group. Who stands out in this group for you?
Maybe
anyone?
Maybe Reddick. Possibly Buescher. Reddick's been terrible here, though. I mean, one top 5. I was saying that mainly because he's in a Toyota. So probably put Buescher ahead. Wallace has 2 top 10s, one of them being 3rd place in this race last year. So probably Buescher. I mean, he's been capable at this track before. Obviously, won it. Got a handful of top 5, top 10s. Exactly like you said, though, not inspiring a whole heck of a lot of confidence, considering he finished 25th earlier this year. So really, I'd go with Buescher by just a hair, maybe over Reddick or Wallace.
Yeah, Reddick, like you said, just the 1 top 5, and he's also had just 1 top 5 in his last 9 races this year. It's like every time he has a good race, you think, well, this is it. He's going to start putting a run together, and he never does. And we're at the point now where it's like maybe it's just never going to happen for him. But he's also never qualified in the top 10. So let's keep that in mind. He's got an average result of just 20.0 here in 8 races, leading just 7 laps. And this is from someone that had a very good Xfinity Series career here, including a win. But he hasn't had any top 10s on the similar tracks this year. So, yeah, unless he has a really good day on Friday night, then we'll definitely let you know about that. And then maybe we can think twice. Buescher. But do you remember what happened when Buescher won that race? I was going to take a look at it, but I didn't have time because it really came from nowhere. I mean, it was the first NextGen race. He started 20th, and I don't even think he had a good practice time, if I'm not mistaken, and he still ended up leading 169 laps and winning the race.
There were a ton of cautions in that race. So there were 11 cautions total for 80 laps. He started 20th, like you said, but worked his way into the top 10 by the end of the first stage. So I think he started off the night with a good car and then took advantage of the many cautions to be able to consolidate some track position and get himself forward, and ended up winning the race. There were a lot of incidents, and looks like people retired from that race as well. So good night for him. Probably a lot of things fell his direction. Even had Chase Elliott finish night when he started 23rd. So obviously those cautions gave those who were a little bit behind at the start of the race a chance to be able to make the adjustments they needed to come forward.
Yeah, as far as other bigger long shots, I kind of wish I had better odds on Keselowski and maybe even Wallace, but they're not bad long shots. Wallace has started the playoffs with a couple of top 10s. He was 3rd at Martinsville, 7th at Dover, and his only top 5 he's ever had at Bristol came in this race last year. So I don't think he's a bad idea. 22-1 is a long shot. Same thing for Keselowski at 25-1, only because, he is sort of like Kyle Busch. This has been a great track for him over his career, so he knows how to win here. It just hasn't happened lately. But he does have a couple of top 10s, Dover, Richmond, so there's that. And keep this in mind, in all 3 of his wins here, he started in the top 8 with 1 pole. So keep an eye on Keselowski if he has a good day on Saturday. Another driver. And again, these long shots, I think any of these long shots, really, just wait, see how they do on Friday. You'll lose a little points, but I don't think you're going to lose a whole lot. So, yeah, again, as I said at the beginning, not a sexy group. All right, this one is, well, there you got Kyle again. And if you want to put a couple of bucks on Kyle, like you've been doing, say, like let's say you've been doing it all year, you think he's going to finally win a race, then fine. This is definitely one of those tracks that you do it. Let's say if you just want to pick your spots, you have to do it. But it's like now, it's like at some point when the race starts in like an hour, you just expect Kyle Busch is going to bring out a caution somehow. It's just something, this is not going well for him. But it's been just an incredible track for him with 8 wins, 14 top 5s, and over 2,500 laps led. Yet in the NextGen, he has a 23.6 average. But he also has an 18.8 average starting position in the NextGen. Again, wait to see how he does on Friday. And then the other one is the clear one that sticks out here, and that is Bowman. You're getting 25-1, so you're getting a good number. 3rd at Dover, 2nd at Richmond. Earlier this year, he had engine issues on lap. I think he ended his race with about 160 laps or so to go. He led 39 laps from the pole. Matter of fact, he's been on the pole the last 2 races at Bristol, leading 34 and 39 laps. So he's a very desperate driver, really wants to get the win. And you would think that with Larson in, you would think that there'd be some clear information being shared here between Elliott and definitely Bowman.
They're definitely going to be doing everything that they can to make sure that as many Hendrick cars go through. So whether that's information sharing or whatever they can do on track to be able to help out Bowman. Like you said, Bowman is the clear standout here. Pole position in each of the last 2 Bristol stops, 9th place finish in this race last year. had an engine issue in this race in the spring, but he led more than 30 laps in both times. So he's been up at the front at this track recently and pretty consistently. Obviously has a lot on the plate to bite off this week in order to advance. I think it's very nearly, as I said earlier, a must-win situation. I think he can do it. Kyle Busch, on the other hand, yeah, he's been great at this track, but he hasn't finished inside the top 10 since 2020. It's been his best finish since then has been 14th, and that was this year. So it's been a long Bristol dry stretch for Kyle Busch. Barry's done nothing, 2 12th place finishes, and then Carson Hocevar 2 11th place finishes from 4 tries. Hocevar did get stage points in both stages earlier this year before he finished 11th. And again, it's hard to compare any of those other 3 with Alex Bowman having led more than 30 laps and started on pole in each of the last 2 Bristol races. It's like a different ball game when you're comparing these 4 against Bowman, or 3 against Bowman.
Yeah, Barry just doesn't. There's just no way. Not after the start he's had in the playoffs. He needs to win. It's not going to happen unless there's a big caution fest. Hocevar, had a pretty decent race earlier this year. So, you would think that this is the type of track that suits him. You need to be aggressive and all that other stuff. So 16.8 average in 4 Cup races is not that bad for Hocevar. Okay. Next. Dylan's also Cindric as well, trying to move on. Shane Van Gisbergen, big difference there in price. So out of these drivers here, I think Dylan's the one that sticks out because of his win at Richmond and the fact that he was 10th earlier this year. I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, Dylan definitely would be somebody. He's almost always on my radar when we come to the short tracks because while he's not as consistent as some of the other ones that we've talked about, he has a tendency to get up there from time to time and pretty frequently too. So we know that Dylan can get the job done here. The only other one that you really didn't mention there was Preece. So Preece finished 7th in this race last year. He didn't have a great race here earlier this season. He's never led a lap in the Cup Series, but a lot of top 15s considering the fact that he's not been with great teams. So maybe a little bit more time with Roush, though I do think Roush is not as great, or RFK, I should say, is not as great as some of the other teams that are out there on the track with them this weekend. I would say Dylan and Preece would be the 2 that I'd be looking at, certainly from this group.
Yeah, and Dylan, even though he might be a decent long shot play, I think I want more than 40 to 1 for a driver who's never led a lap in 20 races.
That too. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. And as far as the rest of them, any of these long shots stick out for you at all for any reason? Top 10, anything?
I will, since you're on the name there, give a call out to Corey Heim, who's just had an absolute fantastic year in the Truck Series, won the first playoff race in the Truck Series as well, making another Cup start here. So Heim is definitely one to watch for the future. Be interesting to see how he handles it this weekend. But aside from the ones that we've already talked about, really, there's really not a ton that's exciting that's out there. Maybe Allmendinger, but again, the year that he's been having has just not been good at all. He does have 3 top 10s from 26 Bristol starts.
Yeah, Stenhouse has 7 top 10s and 4 top 5s at this track, which is as good as anything outside of the super speedways, but he's never led a lap, believe it or not, with all that. And he's only had 1 top 10 in his last 11 races. AJ finished 9th this year. So there's that. And he has 2 top 10s and 5 NextGen races. Gregson has 2 Xfinity Series wins, but none of that is translated to the Cup for Gregson so far. And Eric Jones, he actually was pretty decent earlier in his career, but he's had nothing to show for it with his new team in the NextGen. So, yeah.
I'd like to go the Stenhouse direction, but again, similar to Allmendinger, just hasn't had the season that they would have wanted. Seem to be behind the 8 ball for me. So while they've got upside potential, probably wouldn't be a recommendation at this point.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with Gregson and those guys, but I mean, I don't think it's him. So something's wrong with the team. They got to figure things out over there. This hasn't been good.
Yeah, and average finish of 23rd for somebody like you said that's got multiple wins at the track coming from the Xfinity series. So definitely someone that I would be expecting more from. But again, similar to Allmendinger and Stenhouse, just not a great season. Some bright spots, but not able to do it consistently, and certainly not recently.
Yeah, it's been a very disappointing year so far for Front Row. Okay, time to make our picks. And you go first.
Yeah. So I was thinking that I would go with Larson ahead of this show, but now seeing the odds, I don't know that I really can. So I will go with my backup choice, which would be Chase Briscoe. He's just a high flyer right now. I would not be surprised if he's able to keep this up at least a little while longer, and I'm hoping that he can in order to make it all the way to Phoenix.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. The value there is see, the way I'm going to wager this race, I decided that I'm just going to go ahead and eliminate Larson and Hamlin and just hope that they don't dominate, and then pick a few other drivers that I think are qualified because I'm getting good odds from them. And Briscoe is clearly one of those drivers. I will go with, let me see here. You know what? I'm going to go with Blaney. I don't like the odds, but if I'm going to decide between Bell and Blaney, I'm going to take Blaney. Okay, who do you got next?
Blaney's definitely got more momentum on his side, so the right choice there. I will go ahead and take Gibbs as my second choice. I think he's a consistent top 10 finisher. Given the right circumstances, I think he could pull off a win at this track at some point. Who knows, maybe this weekend. We'll see. It's going to be tough for him, but I'll take him as my second choice.
Okay. I will go ahead and take... I'll go ahead and take Bowman.
Bowman would have been my choice instead of Gibbs. Gibbs just was a little bit further up the odds for me, so I very much like that Bowman shot. Probably would have, or definitely would have been my choice had you not taken him. So that leaves me with a stretch and
not a lot of really big long shots to choose from.
No.
I think Bowman is really where the line should be drawn at 25 to 1.
I agree. And that's kind of why I was looking at Wallace and Reddick there, though I don't really want to take either one of them. It's more likely that it's going to come from one of them. So you know what? I'll go. Where was Hocevar? I'll go Hocevar. I'll go for a wild swing.
Okay. And I'll go ahead and take Wallace. It was going to be Wallace or Keselowski, so you didn't take him. So I'll go with Wallace. The only other driver that I almost went with was going to be Elliott.
Yeah, Elliott was definitely on my list. I think the others just have a little bit more momentum and a little bit more propensity to win the race versus coming home with a solid top 3 or top 5 like I expect Elliott to do.
Yeah, so he's still a really good play, good number for Elliott this week. So again, yeah, I mean, if you take that sort of strategy, the Briscoes, the Elliots, even the Blaneys, but if you want to go, the Gibsons, the Bowmans, because there's not a lot of other options out there, it's not like there's a ton of drivers with good vibes here. There's not. So you have like about 5 or 6 outside those two, behemoths. So if you discount them, just grab those 5 or 6 in some strategic way, and if they come through for you, I think you'll make out okay. Definitely. All right, but then again, Larson and Hamlin could lead over 400 laps, and then it's all over. So, and I think we'll know pretty early in the race. At some point, if it's the first stage and one of them has led the entire stage, we're in trouble. We're in for a long night. Hey, it's college football Saturday, so at least we'll have other things to watch if we want to. All right, so we will know who the round of 12 drivers will be by Saturday night, and then it's off to the next round. Where do we start our next series of races?
It's one of my
New Hampshire.
One of my favorite tracks, New Hampshire.
Yeah, right. So that's New Hampshire, Kansas, and the Roval.
Can we just fast forward to Kansas, please?
Yeah, we might have to do that. But we've seen worse, haven't we? Has New Hampshire, no New Hampshire yet this year?
No, just
okay.
one.
Well, then that's promising then.
Yeah.
There have been a few races this year where we've had no races from that track. They're one track one-offs, and they've actually been better than we've thought. For whatever reason, they just have. So maybe, I don't know, maybe it'll be better than we think next week, but that's for next week. Let's remind everybody that by time I have my report on Friday night, I'll have the link to rotowire.com where CJ, you're going to have your best bets DFS report.
You got that. Hope to have that out Friday. Obviously, we got a Saturday night race, so we'll post the link for you on the video, qualifying video as well. And then after the race, probably on Monday, be able to have NASCAR Power Rankings also out if you want to check out rotowire.com.
Look out for Kevin's report. That'll come out on race day. So you want to see who Kevin likes for the race coming up as well. And then when we return next Tuesday at 4 Eastern, we will take a look at the round of 12. We'll see if any of our drivers that we predicted to make it to the round of 12 are still there. But I don't think we're going to really see many big surprises, but you never know. Anything crazy could happen. And we'll talk more F1 next week too. So we haven't no race this week. So what's the race coming up next week?
Azerbaijan, really cool street course with a really long front straightaway. McLaren continues their domination, though it looks like Max Verstappen and Red Bull took a step forward last weekend in Monza. So Azerbaijan could be pretty interesting.
All right. So we'll talk about F1 on the show next week. Thanks for tuning in here. Proline TV. If you have yet to subscribe, please do that. It's the best way to support the channel. Also, let us know what's on your mind, comments, all that stuff. Even just liking the video really helps us out. So thanks a lot for tuning in, and we'll see everybody next week for this show. But hopefully you'll be back again to check us out when I do the report on Friday night after qualifying and practice. We'll see you then.